Good evening. Welcome to the Church of the Redeemer. I'm David Ware, and I'm a member of the clergy team, and it's my honor and pleasure to welcome you this evening to the fourth in a series of Mortality as Medicine. And my incredible pleasure tonight is to introduce you to the person who's going to introduce our speaker. And the person that I'm introducing is my wife, Sarah Hoover. Sarah.
Thank you all. And for those of you who don't know me, my work exists at the intersection of music and health. I am Peabody Conservatory's Associate Dean for Innovation in the Arts and Health. And I work within the field of arts in health. And this is a growing field which is thinking about ways that the arts can contribute to healing and well-being in healthcare contexts, but also in public health and community health contexts, which brings me to Michelle. So I think it was, can't even remember. It was at a recent National Organization for Arts in Health conference where I was giving a presentation on something rather mundane, just about how we can help professionalize the field and find more work for artists and that sort of thing. And this fully alive human being came up to me afterwards and said, "We're neighbors. I live in Annapolis," because I'd said I was from Baltimore. And that began a conversation about, I had the chance in that circumstance just to hear a little bit about what Michelle does. And it was so powerful, immediately embodied for me the experience of what a process, an artistic process like writing can do to help tap into the wisdom and the health within an individual's life. And then that individual manifests that in front of a community, and the community then benefits and learns. And then that person writes a book, and there's a whole new community formed around that. And then from that book, there's training, right? And the opportunity to learn from this person. So this, to me, is an amazing story of how the arts and creativity can inspire health through storytelling. So with that, I just want to say one thing that Michelle writes in the introduction to this book. She says, "I wrote the food stories in this book for myself, but I published them for you." So we are now going to be the beneficiaries of her journey and her story. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, David. Thank you, Church of the Redeemer. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to see you. And part of the excitement for me is I love talking about food. I love talking about food, and I love talking about how our emotions are connected to the food that we eat. And I love talking about food because so many times we connect food with, everybody in this room can repeat it with me, love, right? Anybody? Yes. When you think about food, you think about love. You think about being nourished, right? You think about being healed. So who doesn't like talking about love, right? And for part of my story is for so many years I struggled with my weight. In my lifetime, I have gained and lost over 700 pounds. And for so many years, what I thought was I just love food more than everybody else. Anybody else ever had that thought? I just love to eat. I just love food. But what I didn't know was that I wasn't clear, that I was confused. And for so many years, I struggled. I struggled going to doctors. I went to a bariatric doctor for the first time in 1981. I didn't even know what a bariatric doctor was, but I was in his office. And that started the cycle. So I'd lose 30 pounds, I'd gain 40. I lose 40, I gain 50. I lose 50, I gain 60. And that's a cycle that continued from the time I was 20 until the time I was 60. And the reason that it continued like that was that I didn't understand the real purpose of food. I was 60 years old before I looked up the definition of food in the dictionary, not in the dictionary, in Google. Is that right? I'm old enough to still say dictionary, to remember that. But I looked it up. I looked it up and I saw it in all the Google colors: nutrition, nourishment, energy. It was like a light bulb went off in my brain. That is all food is. It is fuel. And no one had ever connected the dots like that for me, or even told me that. I mean, what I heard was, eat this, is good for you. You know, eat carrots, they help your eyesight. You know, they tell us that dairy is good for your bones. You know, you need calcium. You know, you need vitamin, right? You need vitamin C. You get that in oranges that puts all that. But I never heard the words that the purpose of eating is for nutrition and nourishment. It is so that you can live. But earlier today, when we were having dinner, someone talked about the cultural norms of why we eat. We are given so many messages about why to eat that don't have anything to do with nourishment or nutrition or energy or saving our lives. So think about it. Think about it. I'm just going to stop for a second. So I want you all to imagine you're at a restaurant. You're at your favorite restaurant. So what's your favorite restaurant? Anybody? Okay. Any other favorite restaurants? No, nobody else goes out to eat with this lady? Nobody else. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So you're at your favorite restaurant. Even if you don't share it with the group, I know you have one. And so you're out at your favorite restaurant. You're with your girls, with your boys, you're with your family. They give you the menu, and you're flipping through the menu. What do you say? What looks good to you? Sound familiar? What are you having? Right? What looks good? Oh, this looks good. I think I'll have this. I've had this before. It tastes good. I think I'll have this. Isn't that how we make our decisions? We make our decisions about what we're going to eat on appearance, taste, smell, and pleasure. Appearance, taste, smell, pleasure. Let me add memory to that as well. Oh, I remember when my mama used to make, I think I'll have that. The gravy probably won't be as good, but, close enough. But those things, appearance, taste, smell, pleasure, memory, none of them have anything to do with nutrition, nourishment, or energy. None of them. But the social norms, the marketing, the way we are advertised to, the way we are conditioned to think about food, what we are told to believe about food, the memories that are created for us about food have us eating in a way that does not serve our health. It didn't me for 40 years. And I didn't know it. I didn't recognize it. Couldn't see it. Because, so let me just stop for a second. Let's think about this. Earlier tonight, earlier at dinner, we were talking about the principles of health. So, principles of health, principles of life, right? How do you want to show up in this world, right? Memento mori, remember we must die. That is, begin with the end in mind. That's like the translation, right? So, if we're going to begin with the end in mind, we want to think about, in English, how do we want to live? How do we want to look? How do we want to feel? How do we want to show up? That's the end. What do we want? So, how do we eat to get the thing that we want? Will eating this give me that? Does anybody ask that question? How will eating this thing help me serve on a higher level? Help me step into my full purpose in this world. That's what the purpose of food is, nutrition, nourishment. But we have people that tell us that it's for entertainment, pleasure, that it's culture. Anybody ever thought that, heard that, believed that? Culture. All right, so here's the funny thing. When I do this talk, it doesn't matter who I talk to, right? If I'm talking to an audience that's like, soul food, that's our love language. Food is part of our culture, right? If I'm talking to people just today, I was talking to somebody that's Italian. Italian, that's how we express our love. Everybody's culture expresses food with love, expresses love with food, excuse me. Right? Right? That's how we do it. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's food. As long as it's food. Because real food is just that. Real food is nurturing. It's nourishing. It gives you energy. It gives you life. It helps you thrive. Real food does that. But the process, the fake food stuff, right? The snack food, the junk food, all that stuff will kill you. It is killing us. Bite by bite by bite, but we don't know it. We don't understand it because we get the menu and we say, "Whoa, what looks good to you?" We can't see it. We can't feel it. And so let me say this: it's not our fault. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. Because there is, not that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I am. Because those companies care more about their profit than our health and our lives. They do. They do. They know that we think food is love. They know it. They know it better than we know it. That's why from after tonight, I want you to start looking, really paying attention to the advertising, paying attention to the marketing, and start to see that the messages it's not about that fake food that they're pushing. The messages is around the emotions that they want you to connect to the food. So when you see this stuff that ultimately does not serve your health on a higher level, you won't think about that. What you'll think about is family, friends, culture, entertainment. You'll think about that. That message will be so strong that you will disregard the fact that there are 15 things on the back of the package that you cannot pronounce. Right? And if you can't pronounce it, guess what? Your body cannot process it. Your body doesn't recognize it. The body doesn't know what it is. Your body doesn't think of it as food. Right? Your body just thinks of it as a lab experiment. Right? Your body doesn't know. And so what's happening is that your body, while your body is trying to figure out what all this other, what is this? What do I do with this? Your body's off doing that, and then there's some dis-ease that shows up, right? And so your body is distracted, so this other stuff comes in and settles right in, and you don't have the physical resource to even deal with it because your body is off trying to deal with the toxins that in this processed junk and snack food that they call food that's not food. That's why, that's why it's so, so important to understand this notion that this constant messaging that we get around food and feelings for food keep us in a keep us in a cycle. But here's some truth. You don't have to stay stuck in that cycle. You don't. You have every bit of power. Everybody say, I got the power. That's what I want to hear. You have every bit of power to change your thoughts about food. You have because, so let me share this little story with you about what I mean by changing your thoughts about the food. When my book came out, my book is Leaving Large, The Stories of a Food Addict. And if I had known what I know now about food, what is food and what is not food, maybe the title would be different. Maybe the title would be Leaving Large, The Stories of a Processed Food Addict. Maybe it would be that. Not quite as lyrical, but it could have been. But I want to talk to you about how it's not the food, it's what we believe about the food, what we think about the food. So, I am, if you can't tell by my accent, I am from the South. So I was born in California, but I grew up in Texas. I grew up in rural, deep East Texas in the 1960s. Little country farming town, Marshall, Texas. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But anyway, so in my little country farming town, about 20,000 people, about half, population is about half black, half white. Black people were poor, working farmers, factory workers for the most part. White people more fluent. But there did come a time where we all went to school together. In fact, my class in the 7th grade was the first year of forced integration where all the 7th graders had to go to school together, all the 8th graders, and so on and so on. So you're looking at a trailblazer here. But so fast forward a couple years, my grandparents send me off to college. And I go to college and I graduate and I get a job in advertising. This was in 1981. And in 1981, Texas was seen as part of the Great Southwest. I mean, there was a Great Southwest boom in the economy. And a lot of the big companies were building field offices in the Dallas area. And I decided, when I graduated from high school, that I wanted to go into advertising. I don't know why I made that decision, but that's just the decision I came up with. And I was lucky enough to get a job in advertising, right? And after many people saying, "Oh, why would you want to do something like that? You know, it's so competitive. How are you going to get a job at advertising? Do black people work at advertising agencies? Do they have it? Why do you want to do that?" So, but anyway, so I landed this job, and I landed a job with J. Walter Thompson, which at the time, if anybody remembers, was one of the biggest names in advertising. So what they had done is that they had a lot of the people that ran the New York offices, they had moved southwest. And a lot of the people that they moved down to Texas, to Dallas from New York, were Jewish. And it just so happened that the woman that was the head of the Dallas office, I was hired as her assistant. So being the assistant to the woman that ran the Dallas office for J. Walter Thompson, that was a pretty big deal, right? So her office was there, my desk was here, and the table where all the reps brought in the food was right there. So, I was there. I'm like, I think I'm gonna. They brought in food every day, all kinds of stuff. I think I'm gonna like this advertising business. But one day, a rep came in, and she had a big platter of the biggest donuts I'd ever seen in my life. And that's what I said. Oh my goodness, I have never seen donuts that big. so my coworkers, they were from New York, they were Jewish. They got a little letter. Okay, those aren't donuts. They're bagels. Well, they look like donuts to me. No, and so they were so sweet. And so they were like, okay, so they explained how they explained the culture, right? They explained how they were boiled and then they were baked and what the traditions were and what it meant. And I'm like, all right. So this is what the New York advertising people eat. So if I want to be like the New York advertising people, they gonna be anybody here that's gonna eat more bagels than me. Right? That wasn't a conscious thought. That was a subconscious thought. But the other thing that I want to share about this story, and this is why I want to talk about what we connect, the connections that we make to food. So one of the things that happens when you live in a little country farming town and you send your kids off to college, you want them to come back and bring information, right? You want them to come back and prove that your hard-earned money was worth it, right? And they learned something important. So what I decided to do the weekend I was going home, I was going to pack up, I was going to take bagels back home to my grandparents. I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to take a bagels, right? And so my grandfather wasn't there, my grandmother was there, and I had the bag, and I brought in. I'm the grandmother Petties, I have something special for you. She's like, oh, all right, baby, what is it? And I'm like, this is what all the advertising people in New York eat. And she said, okay, so she's excited, right? Right? She's 80 years old, right? She's a farmer black woman in Dallas. In Marshall, she's about to eat what New York advertising people eat. So she's standing there, and she looks and she says to me, well, baby, it just looks like some bread. And I say, I know, but it's bagels. And she said, okay. All right, so she's standing there patiently, and I pull out the cream cheese, and I pull out the lox, because we didn't call it lox, we just called it salmon. I had to explain that to her, right? And she said, okay, make it for me, right? So I spread it up. I lathered up lots of cream cheese, lots of that lox. It's better. It actually tastes better than they can. Probably not as good as your patties, but it's good, all right? And so she's standing there ready, and she picks it up, and she says, it's kind of heavy. I'm like, I know, it's bagels. She's all right. And so she takes a bite, and she's chewing, and she's, well, sweetie, it's kind of chewy. I know, it's bagels. Now, here's what I want to share with you. My grandmother wore dentures, which made it a little bit more of a challenge. But I was watching her. She wanted to love it. She did. She wanted to because I brought it, right? And she tried a couple of bites, and she said, well, baby, you don't have to bring me any more of this. Now, my point in telling this story is this. If I had given that same bagel with cream cheese and lox to one of my advertising friends at the agency, they would have been super happy and super impressed. It's the same food. The food does not have the power. It's the thought about the food. It's the belief about the food. It's what you connect to the food that has the power. And as you are making your own choices, as you're thinking about what you're going to eat every day, just start thinking about what am I connecting to this food? Is it true? Is it the truth, or is it something that someone told me that might have been true at the time, but it's not true now? Y'all, I know we're in church, but we can't trust everybody, right? We cannot trust this toxic food supply. We cannot trust the people that are making the food, that want us to buy the food, that want us to buy more of it and buy it more often and buy much more of it to tell us the truth about what's in it. Because here's what's happening. For anybody that was like I was, that struggled and felt and thought, I don't have any willpower, I don't have any self-control, I don't have any self-discipline. I am a moral failure. And here's the thing, they make the food addictive. They spend billions and billions of dollars on research to make it so that you can eat 5 of whatever it is in one sitting. Make it easy to slide down your throat. That's why they process it, right? And then blame you because you can't control it. We have to understand what's going on with that because it is real. It is real. It is real that addiction changes the brain, right? Do I have any therapists, any people in here that can confirm that, right? It changes the brain. So this stuff that they are selling us, that they're calling food, that's not really food, it is really drugs. Depending on the study, sugar is more addictive than cocaine. Anybody read those studies? Heard about those studies? And is it any wonder when you start looking on the backs of packages, you're going to see sugar in everything. Sugar in all sorts of places in it. I bought a package of nuts the other day. Why is sugar in cashews? Right? Why? Because here's what happens. Here's what happens. And I really want you to understand this. Is that what we eat is the key to our health, right? It's a key to it is the key to our life, our key to our living. And at the very center of that is what we eat and how we nurture our bodies. And if we don't get that right, then we're not able to live. We're not able to live in our full purpose. We aren't. Let me ask a question, real quick question. Who in here emotional eater? Okay. Any emotional eater? All right. Okay. Who in here would you say I'm not an emotional eater? I just eat because not an emotional eater. Okay, not an emotional eater. All right. I would like for you to consider this for just a moment. And this is where this industry gets us. This is how we're tricked. Eating is an action. Eating is a behavior. And before everything we eat, before every action that we take, before we behave in any way, we have to have a thought. We have to think. And our thoughts are based on beliefs, they're based on feelings, they're based on emotions. Every single act is preceded by that. So even if you believe that you are not an emotional eater, you are. But here's the language I want you to listen and understand. Is that because it's a thought, because it's a belief, we come here believing nothing. Everything we believe, we're taught. We come here an empty slate, right? So when it comes to eating and emotions, you can decide. You can decide. You can. So as an emotional eater, there's a difference between the choice that you make, that you say, I'm eating out of honor. I'm eating out of respect. I'm eating because I want to live and not die today. right? The choices are different. And those choices are intentional, those choices are conscious. But it's still an emotion. It's still an emotion, understand that. But so often when people say, I'm an emotional eater, and this is one reason why I don't even like the phrase relationship with food. I'm just going to step aside for a second. Because when you think about the phrase, or you just think about the word relationship in and of itself speaks to reciprocity. Speaks to some give and take, right? All food can do is sit on a plate. It cannot have a relationship with us. It cannot be in relationship with us. It can't. And so part of the addiction, part of the issue comes is us trying to make it have a relationship with us. Trying to make it fulfill an emotional place that only connection can fill, that food can never fill. That's why there's food addiction, why obesity, why it is so isolating. Because you cannot eat enough Doritos to replace the fact that someone is just going to come sit by you and hold your hand. Yeah, put your hand out there. Play, work with a sister. Right? You can't do it. It's unrealistic to expect food to do it, even though the advertisers, I'm ashamed to say, will tell us that it can. The truth is the food cannot. It cannot. It cannot. But here's the thing about those emotions, about the emotions in food, is that the emotions don't announce themselves. You just say, I think I want some ice cream. Aren't there some cookies in there? Are we out of popcorn? Right? I'll give you a hint. If something is going on and you say to yourself, I think I want some something, a fill in the blank. Yeah, fill in the blank with whatever the thing is, all right? That is likely not hunger. It's likely not hunger. Be willing to sit with yourselves for just a second and think, what did I just think? What did I just see? What did I just hear? What just happened? Was I hungry? Did I want the Doritos, the popcorn, the Snickers? Did I want that? Did I want that a few minutes ago? Or did it just come on? Be willing to explore what emotional place you think, you believe, you feel that food can touch. Because it is not the food, it is the thoughts about the food, it is the belief about the food, it is the association that you make to the food that is driving you to want it. I mean, I just was listening. I don't want to talk too much. How are we doing on time? Okay, all right. So I was just listening to something. I was listening to a show today. I was listening to NPR coming up here, and there was a segment that they were doing on food, and they were talking about soup. Did anybody hear that? Okay, yeah. Did anybody happen to hear the woman when she was describing the recipe, and the announcer said something? "Ooh, you're making me hungry talking about this." Yeah, we see it all the time. So here's the thing. There's a difference between the desire to eat and actual hunger. There's a difference. That lady wasn't hungry. Right? She wasn't. Somebody talking about food will not make you hungry. Seeing food will not make you hungry. Thinking about food will not make you hungry. It won't. Pictures in the magazine don't make you hungry. The sign that says hot and ready, right? Flashing, right? Just that does not make you hungry. It doesn't. But they are all tools that are used by the snack food companies, the junk food companies, the processed food companies to get us to ignore what's going on in our bodies for their profits and not our health. Because that stuff that's always flashing, it ain't never anything that's good for you. Right? Has anybody ever seen a sign that says fresh picked greens right here? I've never seen that. I've never seen. You've seen it? Oh, okay. God bless you. Well, let me say this: we rarely see it. We see the other stuff more than we see that. So being aware of the marketing that has us going down this dark road, oftentimes, how we're being manipulated into eating stuff that is not food when we are not hungry. Right? That's what's happening. That's part of what's happening. That's part of the issue, and it's all because it's not the food. It's because the neuromarketers, and it is neuromarketing, it is neurosciences, have found a way to invade our thoughts and invade our brains. And when they invade our thoughts and our brains and our beliefs, then that impacts our behavior. So often we hear this language, eating disorder, right? I would suggest to you that it's not an eating disorder. We're not dealing with eating disorders. What we're dealing with is a thinking disorder. Because once we reclaim our thoughts, once we reclaim our beliefs, then we reclaim our actions. And eating is an action. And this is why, who's ever been on a diet? All right. And who would say diets don't work? Anybody? All right, good. We're in agreement. And this is why they don't work. The reason that they don't work is this. A few minutes ago, I asked who would say, I'm an emotional eater. Most people raise their hands. So what you have said is my problem is not eating, but emotion. How do I manage the stress? How do I manage the loneliness? How do I manage the guilt? How do I manage the shame? How do I manage the boredom? How do I manage the frustration? How do I do that? Because when I'm in those places, when I'm in those dark places, when I'm in those places where I'm stressing out, I feel like I don't have any control, what I unconsciously do is I move to food. I mean, I'm standing in the refrigerator, not in front of the refrigerator, I don't even know how I got here. And that's happened to somebody? Right. Why is that bag of chips all of a sudden empty? What happened to them, right? You don't even understand why it happened. So what we have here is we have most people saying on some level, I am an emotional eater and I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do with this emotion other than eat about it. I'm clear that it doesn't solve it, but I don't know what else to do. Emotional overeating. On this side, what we have is keto, right? We got the Mediterranean diet, right? We got Wegovy. We got Atkins. We got South Beach. We got the diet cookie. I ate plenty of those. Right? So I am sure the diet cookie would work. right? If you would eat the one that they tell you to eat. But if you eat the 12 that are in the box, it doesn't work. But here's what I'm saying. The problem, part of the problem, is the emotional overeating. The other part of the problem is the solutions that are provided don't address the problem. Right? I'm an emotional overeater. I think I'll try Atkins. What will that do? But the industry builds its success based on the fact that we aren't going to figure that disconnect out, that we're going to stay stuck in that cycle. But when you learn how to take your brain back, and I'll tell you right now how to take your brain back, because this is what saved my life. Taking my brain back. All the things that sometimes you just are right there in your face, tools that you've always had for so long, but you didn't think that they weren't, right? Because they are quiet. Meditation. Meditation works. Like prayer. It works. And I know it works. I know it works because my what I call my Pizzagate breakdown. My last breakdown, when I went to a conference, I ate way too many pieces of pizza, and I said something is wrong. I went straight to my doctor's office. The doctor that had been telling me she had a program for me, and I was like, no, I'm just going to come and you can just tighten up my skin. You got these lasers. We're going to do that. But I went to this conference. I ate 5 pieces of pizza in, I think, maybe 5 minutes. Maybe it was 10, but it was way too many in way too short a period of time. And I went to her office, and I was like, help me. Help me. What I want you to understand is this. That's not the first time I'd ever said, help me. That's not the first time I'd ever been to a bariatric doctor, because remember, I went to one in 1981. I had been on many 500-calorie plans and always gained the weight back. I'd done a lot of shakes and always gained the weight back. But I was desperate when I showed up in her office. And she said, come on in. And while she was asking me 10,000 questions, right, I was praying. I was saying, God, help me. I'd never prayed before about this. I never prayed about the weight thing. Help me. There is something I don't know. There is something I don't understand. There is something I am missing, but I have got to get off this hamster wheel. Help me. That was my prayer. So then I waited. She gave me my little packets and follow this plan. Take these shots. You will not be hungry. And guess what? I wasn't. And I started losing weight, just like she said. But then there came a time when I wanted to eat. And I didn't understand why. And I stopped, I asked, why do I want to eat? The doctor said if I follow this plan, which I've been following, if I take this shot, which I've taken, I would not be hungry. I'm not hungry. Why do I want to eat right now? I don't understand this. And so I sat with that question for a little while. And as I sat with this question, kind of pondering what was going on, something I'd never done before, this story bubbled up. This story came up. I told you before that I'm from the South, little farming, agricultural town. It was the 90s, and we were on my uncle's farm. And we were having a barbecue, cookout, kind of family reunion kind of thing, and we brought out the watermelon, right? Black folk and watermelon, who knew? So I say to my uncle, Billy, do you want some watermelon? And he says, no, I don't eat watermelon. Yeah, I had that same look. I had that same look. What? Huh? What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Willis? I'm like, why? Do you not like watermelon? Do you want some later? He's like, no, I just don't eat it. My uncle's probably 60, 70 years old. Well, there's got to be a reason. No, I just don't eat it. There's got to be a reason. No, I just don't eat it. We went back and forth. I won. And he finally told me that when he was a kid, maybe 6, 7 years old, in 1930s, segregated South, Marshall, Texas, hot summer day, he and some buddies decided to steal a watermelon. And when my grandfather, his father, found out about it, he wasn't a happy guy. And so 2 things I want you to understand about my grandfather. My grandfather was a railroad worker, and my grandfather was a church trustee. And the one person that a kid that just stole a watermelon does not want to meet is that guy. And so my grandfather beat my uncle. He beat him. He beat him so severely that he never ate watermelon again. That beating happened in the 1930s. I was asking him this question in 1990. So I say to my uncle, I asked him the question now, even though I didn't even understand the importance of the question when I asked him. I said, Billy, that was 60 years ago. Now looking back, do you think maybe the lesson was supposed to be, thou shalt not steal? And my uncle just looked at me and said, I don't eat watermelon. And that was that. And as I was sitting, trying to understand, why do I want to eat when I'm not hungry? God gave me that story. God brought that memory up, something that had been dormant in me for 40 years that I always had the answer. I just didn't know it was the answer. I didn't know the right question to ask. And I thought to myself, it was such a glorious moment, even though I had just heard this traumatizing story. But it was glorious because I got the revelation. I understood that if my uncle did not eat watermelon because of the trauma, because of the memory, because of the event, because it was so painful, then the opposite must be true for me when it came to all these other foods. That the connection was so strong, he couldn't separate it. He didn't even understand it himself. I mean, he was clear on what it was. It wasn't an unconscious connection, but his conscious connection gave me consciousness. It gave me understanding in that moment to understand that all the food choices that I had been making were connected to some sort of memory. That food meant something to me. And as I sat there with this new freedom, that's when I went to Google and looked up the definition of food, right? When I saw it, and that understanding and that definition, taking that understanding and that definition and using it before every single thing I put in my mouth gives me such clarity, gives me such freedom, gives me such peace, gives me such joy, gives me such confidence. Confidence to stand here in front of you tonight and say that I don't worry one day, not one moment, about ever gaining weight back. And that was a struggle for me for 40 years. I don't ever worry one moment about why I'm eating something. I understand it because I got the questions. I've got the questions. First of all, is this really food? That's the first question. Is it safe? Why do I think it's safe? If this food is not going to give me the body I say I want, why am I eating it? Am I really hungry? Am I hungry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? Am I frustrated? Am I something else? Why this food now? Those questions Why this particular food now? It seems like a lot of questions. It seems like it might take a little bit of time, but after you practice it, you can go through those questions in about 3 seconds. So the meditation is freedom. Affirmations, freedom. That's how you get your mind back. Visualization, practicing those things, that's how you get your mind back. And writing which we did at dinner, right? What does the Bible say, right? Write the vision, make it plain, right? I'm not the biggest Bible scholar in the world, but it's in there, right? Write the vision. When you write it, you make it real. That changes your brain. Those four things will allow you to get your mind back, get your freedom back, and not just to survive this toxic food environment, this toxic emotional environment, but it will also allow you to thrive. Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much. We've got about 10 minutes for questions, if that's okay. Can I? Oh, yes.
Good evening. My name is Debbie, and thank you so much for sharing your story. It was very enlightening. About 25 years ago, I had 3 epiphanies back to back to back about food. And the first one was, I think I was in a biology or physical science class, and I read, energy cannot be destroyed. And I started to ponder about that. I'm like, what kind of system is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I grew up on a farm like you, and we had livestock, and we had animals that took care of us, that we ate. And I said, well, when they die, that's the end of that. No, when we ate the pork,
Mm-hmm.
the cornbread with the cracking cornbread,
Mm-hmm.
it went into my body. That gave me energy. It helped. So I said, oh, now I get it. And then my second epiphany was by me growing up on a farm, and I saw how well we took care of our animals, even though the ones that took care of us, we were very kind when it came time for them
Mm-hmm.
to be part of that cycle of energy cannot be destroyed. And when I moved to Baltimore, I noticed the meat did not taste the same. We had fresh chickens, we had fresh eggs, we had brown eggs, the yolk was orange, we had spring water. My mom washed our clothes in spring water. She cooked in spring water. We drank spring water. We bathed in spring water. And so I started to connect the dots that, and plus I'm a Quaker, and we are all about the nonviolence. I had an issue with animals being slaughtered just for me to have a hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been about 25 years that I haven't eaten any pork, chicken, turkey, beef. If it walks on the land, I don't eat it. If it flies, I don't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But if it can do the backstroke, I mean, we are in Baltimore, and those blue crabs are really real. So I'm not all that. And the third epiphany I had about food was, as I'm a senior citizen now, I see food as medicine.
Yes.
It's medicine. So I'm very particular about what I put in me, because energy can't be destroyed. So that gives me fuel and energy. So now I'm thinking about what kind of fuel and energy that I want. And in the South, as you indicated, grew up in a black culture, and we broke bread, and food was very spiritual. It was a gathering. It was community. When we slaughtered the hogs, the women in the community would come around, and they would make the sausages. They never told you all the spices they put in it, because that was a secret. And it was just, I have fond memories of how we ate and the flavor and the spices. So today, I'm more of a plant-based eater, and I just see food as medicine.
Yes.
And that's my relationship with it.
Yes.
And you're right. I think I do have maybe degrees of emotional connection, because I now look at it that I am not saying to myself, an animal had to be tortured for me to put the fuel in my body to keep me going in the medicine. So I just want to thank you for sharing your story. I can relate to that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing that. And you are so right. You're so right about food being energy cannot be destroyed, and the energy that's around the meals, right? And and it just makes me think about this. If we are looking to be authentic, right, to connect to our authentic selves, the question that comes up for me is that can we do that eating artificial food? That just something to think about. But you're right, food is medicine, and here's the truth about that is that food is not neutral, and you cannot be destroyed. But what we eat is either going to cure us or it is going to kill us. It is going to hurt us or it is going to heal us. I mean that it's one thing or the other, and we got to know that. There's a lady behind you.
Thank you so much for your talk tonight. I've had a lot of thoughts recently myself about some of these drugs that are currently being used by a lot of people. And there's a lot of encouragement by our culture and society for people to take these medications, which, just like you were saying, we have the choice, we have the ability to change our thoughts. Those drugs change our thoughts too, but it's temporary. So the only way that weight loss is going to stay off is if you keep taking those drugs. And I guess that for me, I'm realizing, like, I don't want to be a guinea pig. I don't want to. I know lots of folks, even one of my sisters right now, has lost a significant, almost 100 pounds in like the last year. But it's hard for me because I'm still overweight. And I keep thinking, she's like, well, you can get these drugs, Laura, too. It's not that expensive if you do this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but it says right in the advertisement, this could cause thyroid cancer. You could have these problems with gastro issues and all these other side effects. Where if I just change my thinking, like you're saying tonight, about food and why I'm eating it, then it's not necessary to have all of those possible side effects.
Yes, right on, right on.
So thank you.
So I am so glad you brought that. I'm so glad you brought that up. And here's what I want to just take a moment and talk about. The four things that I mentioned: the visualization, the affirmation, the meditation, the writing. Those are tools of transformation. Those are tools of emotional transformation. The thing that we need, the thing that people say they want, transformation. I don't want to feel like I don't know how to manage these emotions, right? And the way that you do it, right, over time. And please understand me. I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't take the drugs, right? I took plenty of them, right? But they are not a panacea. They're not the only answer. You may be in some desperate place where you need to feel like you're doing something now. It may be the thing that gets you started, but it's not the thing that's going to take you all the way, right? The thing that's going to take you all the way is when you learn. So the meditation is so important because if this is a thinking issue, if this is a believing issue, and that's all centered in our brain, what is meditation? Meditation is exercise for our brain. That's how we calm the noise. Not just the external noise of food and the marketers and all that, but our own internal noise. Meditation does that. But we aren't taught that. We aren't taught to exercise our brains, which covers and carries everything. But they know it. The marketers know it. They know something that we don't know, but now y'all know, right? now you know. Any other questions?
Obviously, I'm on a diet, which I've been most of my life, but you were 60 when you figured this out. I was in my 70s. But I started reading labels. And then I read an article that margarine, which was so good because butter is not good for you, is one molecule away from plastic. So if you're using margarine, go back to butter. And I really don't want popcorn right now, okay? Actually, I look at things, and mostly I will buy anything that has a main ingredient and maybe one thing. Like popcorn I eat has popcorn and sea salt. And if it has any more than that, I don't buy it. So I'm trying. I'm a late learner, but I'm getting there.
It is a step at a time. It is one thing at a time, and it's a lot, right? It's a lot because we are unlearning and learning all at the same time. But if you unlearn and learn one new thing for a year, just once a week, that's 52, right? If you release one emotion that has some weight trapped around it, one a week for a year, that's 52. That's 52 pounds. That's saving your life. That's saving your life right there. Was there another question?
Hi. So my name is Michelle also, and I'm a nutrition educator, so I work with little children and then with their parents. And I think one of the hardest things to overcome right now is that little people don't have agency, right? So they're at the mercy of what is brought home to them, what's available to them, what's affordable, what's easy, and trying to encourage them to try fresh foods and enjoy fresh foods and know how it helps your body and know what's good for you. It's an uphill battle, and I try to also talk to the parents as well, but I think their generation succumbs a lot to the advertising that you're talking about, to it being fun and flashy and easy, and the commercials are always with all your friends and you're always having such a good time, and it always looks like it's so good for you, and we all know that it's not. Right. And so every day I'm out there doing it. But it takes a village, it takes a community, and we all need to not only educate ourselves, but educate the next generation too.
Yes. It's all lies. It's lies. But I want to just elaborate on something that you said. Is that we are taught to focus on this one thing, diet. But diet's not the real key. The real key is desire. Because once you change desire, the diet will change. The desire is up here. We're in a culture that teaches us, that creates desire for us to spend and want that which is not healthy for us, and spend more money to be unhealthy. Desire. But once you make the shift, and you desire that which will keep you alive, that will keep you thriving, right? That will keep you breathing and growing and stepping into your purpose. Once that desire is stronger, then it's not a battle. Then it's not a fight. I go out to dinner. Sometimes I go out, and listen, I'm telling you, I am a food addict. I'm a sugar addict, for real. I'm in recovery, but that's a real life. I am the person that used to go to Starbucks. True. I used to go to Starbucks. I'd get the banana bread, the lemon pound cake, and the sweet potato bread. Anybody? Y'all ever had any of that, right? Yeah, I get all three of them, then get a cup of coffee with Splenda. That's addiction. That's addiction. That's what addiction looks like. But y'all, let me tell you something. To be able to go into Starbucks, go into Panera, go out to dinner and have them bring out the dessert tray with the creme brulee, with the flourless chocolate cake, with the bread pudding, with I know them all, with the peach cobbler, to bring all that out and not get it, and not just get it, but not want it. But invariably, somebody will be at the table and they will say, "Oh my goodness, I wish I had your willpower. I wish I had your self-control. I wish I had your self-discipline." Right? They'll say it. I don't have any of those things. What I have is no desire to eat that which will kill me. And so when I change my beliefs and my thoughts about what I see when I used to, for the stuff that I used to eat, when it changes, when the picture changes, when I'm no longer saying, oh, what looks good, it can look good, the colors can be attractive, but if I know the truth about what's in it and what it does to my body, that kills desire. And when you don't have desire, then you don't need willpower.
Michelle, thank you. And there are books available for purchase over at the purple table there. And Michelle, will you be there? Will you
Yes,
sign
I'll be
for
there to
folks?
sign.
Great, great. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all so very, very much.